Welcome back. Experts are predicting above normal wildfire activity this summer throughout much of California. That prediction comes as southern parts of the state continue to recover as best they can from deadly wildfires just 4 months ago. You might remember a series of wildfires ripped through Los Angeles and San Diego County, but the biggest damage occurred in Los Angeles for several weeks back in January. Dozens of people were killed, more than 18,000 structures destroyed, economic damages in the excess of $250 billion. Joining me now, Rick Caruso. He is a real estate developer who ran for mayor of Los Angeles in 2022. He also formerly served as a member of the city's Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Importantly for this conversation, he has created a foundation called Steadfast LA, which is trying to help in the recovery efforts. Rick, I told you in February when we last spoke I would keep my eye on this story. I'm asking you to help me do that. When we talked in February, then you were frustrated with the pace of recovery. Are you more frustrated or optimistic now?
Well, Major, thanks for having me on, and thanks for keeping an eye on the story. I've got a little bit of a mixed feeling on this. I think sections of it, parts of this have done well. The Army Corps of Engineers is actually moving along at a very good pace. They're ahead of schedule on the debris removal. So I'm grateful to the Army Corps for that. In terms of processing permits and getting people back into their community, it's still very slow. I mean, we're past 100 days on this fire, and I think they've only issued about 35 building permits. So we still have too much red tape. We've got to cut through that. The city and the county and the state definitely need to move quicker on processing permits and getting the communities rebuilt.
When we talked in February, Rick, you were optimistic about an AI, that is to say artificial intelligence system that you were going to create and hand over to the city for that permit expediting process. Where are we with that?
So, Major, to put it in context, it takes about 6 to 8 months to get your plans approved through Plan Check in the city of LA. We went to Amazon through a gentleman named Mike Hopkins, who's one of their executives, to develop this AI model. Amazon, along with a firm out of Australia called Architect, developed it. It is now being delivered to the city and the county. So Steadfast raised the money, worked with Amazon on this, and now Plan Check will happen in a matter of hours, not a matter of months. So what we're pushing for now in the city and the county is to fully implement and adopt this, but it comes at no cost to the city. And we're hoping this will make a meaningful difference in getting building permits processed.
Rick, in social science, there's a concept known as hierarchy of needs. As you think about the recovery effort, what are the hierarchy of needs? What needs to be done first? What needs to come after that? And after that, rank them for my audience so they can understand what isn't happening, what needs to happen, and how to measure the progress.
Well, the number one priority is to get common areas open for people to start enjoying their community again. And in order to do that, all the power lines, all the infrastructure needs to get redone. Power lines need to be buried. Steadfast was instrumental in getting the city and the county to agree to underground the power lines. That should be happening now and not later. We need to get schools opened, churches rebuilt, the parks rebuilt. One of the parks in Altadena reopened today, which is great. We're working on completely rebuilding the Palisades Park, which was totally destroyed for the most part. The business district needs to get reopened so we can create jobs and there's places for people to go. And alongside that, issuing permits very quickly for people to start rebuilding their homes. So you have this massive logistical issue. 300,000 acres in the Palisades, roughly 300,000 acres in Altadena, that all has to get rebuilt. And that needs to be thought through in a massive scale in order to have the logistics to allow all of this to happen. But infrastructure is number one, common space is number two, and then businesses and then homes. And I think within the next year, you're going to see all of that happening. That is the push, that within the year, we're going to see all of those construction projects beginning.
How would you evaluate the city bureaucracy, the city leadership, and the city transparency? And by transparency, I mean the frequency with which either standards are set, goals are described, and markers either met or not met.
Well, I think the grade, Major, on transparency is F. There is no transparency. And that's one of the things we've been calling for. And everybody in the city and the county should know exactly what's happening, right? What the status of the undergrounding is, what the status of permits are, how long it takes to get a permit processed, all of these kind of things. There's none of that. There's not a dashboard. We've asked for a dashboard to be created so people can go online on a daily basis to see that. The real issue that we have here, which I've talked about, is that the leadership has failed. And so the question that you have to ask yourself is, when the leadership has failed to protect a community, is the leadership in a position to rebuild the community? And without an enormous effort on the private sector that we're trying to play a part of, the answer is no. And the private sector needs to be coming in, which we're trying to help support the elected officials and moving this thing forward with a greater sense of urgency and a greater sense of innovation, like we did for the AI model on plan checking. That could have been driven by the government, but it wasn't. So we were able to step in, and we're happy to do such.
Rick, is your advocacy, involvement, and also criticism of the mayor a springboard for future political office?
No, it's based on pure fact, Major. You take a look at what's happening here. There's nothing that I've talked about that isn't rooted in the facts. No different than the fire was completely preventable. The mistakes that were made that could have avoided all of this in the Palisades is all based in fact. And I'm not worried about politics. These issues are much bigger than politics. I'm worried about getting these communities rebuilt and getting people back in their homes quickly and safely.
Realistically, when we talked in February, I mentioned that one of the leaders who's now on his way out of this effort talked about rebuilding process beginning in 12 to 18 months. You said 18 months was too late, 12 months was more realistic. Where are we on that time measurement?
I think we're going to hit the 12 months. We're going to be ahead of schedule on, like I talked about with the Army Corps. That's going to allow people to start building. There's actually homes starting in Altadena and in Palisades. I don't know about Malibu yet. Malibu's a little bit more complicated because of the Pacific Coast Highway. I think we're going to get the park restarted within 12 months. We're going to reopen our shopping district that we own within 12 months. And my whole goal here, Major, is let's get this flywheel moving. And once you get that energy behind it, it starts its own inertia. People start building their homes. There's an optimism around it. And that's what we need to do. We need to create this sense we're moving forward. There's hope, and it's going to happen. And I'm 100% committed to seeing that through, and I think it will happen.
Metaphorically, get that locomotive moving out of the station.
Right. Darn right. Once it starts moving, it can't be stopped. That's the plan.
Rick Caruso, I told you I'd keep an eye on this. I will. I hope to have you back, sir.
I hope so, too. Thank you, Major.